subject now because Stephen Carroll is with us here on set. He's been looking at how that massive Facebook outage has been affecting the stock markets, even affecting the stock markets.
Yeah, that's right. Those hours while all those services were offline made a pretty big dent in Facebook's share price. Its shares slumping by almost 5% on Wall Street. And it wasn't just Facebook that was affected. Technology shares as a whole were taking a battering on Wall Street already. This didn't help. Google's parent company Alphabet saw falls of around 2%, while Twitter, which is where many people went to complain when Facebook services went down, also saw their shares tumble by almost 6%. Now, technology shares had already been under pressure in recent days due to broader moves that are happening on the markets. These are companies, though, that had seen big increases in their share prices during the pandemic. It'll be interesting to see if this incident has any lasting impact on Facebook's business.
Can't have been that good for Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg either.
No, the drop in Facebook's share price cost him more than $6 billion. Bloomberg says that means he's dropped to the 5th richest person in the world, behind Bill Gates on their billionaires list. Facebook's share price has been falling since mid-September after a series of revelations about the social network were published by the Wall Street Journal. The company could be facing more difficulty as former employee turned whistleblower Frances Haugen is set to testify to US senators later today.
Let's turn now to the price of oil. It's on the rise, isn't it?
US oil prices hit their highest level in 7 years on Monday. They're holding around that level today. The international benchmark, Brent crude, trading over $81 a barrel. That's close to a 3-year high for Brent. This as the oil cartel OPEC and its allies said they would stick to their plan only to gradually increase production, despite soaring demand for oil. Keris Garland has more.
Sparking warnings of growing disparity in supply and demand, oil-producing nations refuse to open the taps further. The 23-member group, known as OPEC Plus, said it would stand by a commitment made in July to only raise production by a modest 400,000 barrels a day, less than 0.5% of world demand. The move saw oil prices jump to their highest levels in at least 3 years, the international benchmark Brent crude rising briefly above $82 a barrel. Oil prices have already surged more than 50% this year, stoking fears of inflation in many parts of the world. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said while the US was not a member of OPEC, it would use every tool at its disposal to keep oil prices down.
We do communicate with our international partners who are members of OPEC and convey, as we did a few months ago, our urging to find a compromise solution to allow proposed production increases to move forward, as they did several months ago.
Oil gains come amid global price hikes in natural gas and electricity. Costs have been propelled by sharp increases in demand from economies reopening after the pandemic, and the rising prices are being passed on to consumers.
Rising energy prices a big issue on the stock markets as well. Investors worried that inflation fueled by the cost of energy could prompt central banks to tighten their policies. But despite all of that, European markets are nudging up at the open this morning. It's actually the French energy giant EDF leading the gains across the top index of European shares. On the Asian markets earlier, a slightly different picture. We've got big falls on the Nikkei in Tokyo and on the Kospi in Seoul. Just the Hang Seng in Hong Kong seeing some small gains while Shanghai is closed.
Got a warning for you now. We could be facing some disruption to production of our favourite TV shows. This is because workers in Hollywood are voting for strike action.
The International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees, which represents the behind-the-scenes crews in film and TV production, says that 99% of its members have voted in favour of a strike. This is part of a contract dispute over more reasonable working conditions, things like rest periods, safer hours and guaranteed meal breaks. They've been in negotiations with producers for 4 months until talks broke down on the 20th of September. If this strike goes ahead, it would be the first in the union's 128-year history and, of course, could have a big impact on production.
Meal breaks, what are they? Finally from Stephen, the Italian fashion house Dolce & Gabbana has jumped on the latest trends in auctions.
The brand has sold a 9-piece collection of digital non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, for the equivalent of $5.7 million. Now, it includes 5 actual pieces of clothing as well as their digital equivalents. Then there are 4 other pieces which are solely digital, including the impossible tiara made of gems, which Dolce & Gabbana says can't be found on Earth. The collection was sold using the cryptocurrency Ethereum, and because of that, it's actually risen in value since the sales. The company will now get the equivalent of $6.1 million in payment.
Well, it's not so bad, is it?
Not too shabby at all.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Stephen with Business on Friday.